That's right, Carol. Christopher Dixon is an old media hand. He used to head up media coverage at UBS for a number of years. So thank you for joining us this morning. Let's start with the fact that you've been to a couple of these conferences in the past. What is the goal of these conferences? What kind of opportunity does it present?
Well, these are industries which are very complicated. So you have the opportunity not only to set the agenda for your management team, but also to get to know your frenemy, your friend who is sometimes your enemy.
A lot of frenemies gathering today.
Absolutely.
Okay, now what's on the agenda this year? What should be on the agenda this year?
Well, I think the big agenda is going to be video delivery. Just as we've seen the publishing business, obviously the magazine business, the newspaper industry come under pressure, as we start to see these new devices, these new ways to deliver video into your home.
The PlayStation, the
iPhone. This week we had Apple talk about carrying a network to a new Apple device. Clearly, what is the future of broadcasting and cable, and how will people see TV, see programs, and see that in their home? That's the big agenda.
So it's a completely different business model, really.
Well, in a sense, this is the promise that we had 5 to 10 years ago, where new devices now make it possible for you to receive all kinds of information in new and different ways. And the challenge is, how do the incumbents kind of exist in that world?
What about mergers and acquisitions? A lot of talk, of course, about Comcast and General Electric over NBC.
Well, obviously, musical chairs is alive and well in the media industry. The music has begun. We've seen things like Disney and Marvel. That deal's on track. We've seen restructurings that are announced. I think on the conference call today, we'll get a clearer picture from Time Warner as to what they'll be doing with their AOL spinoff. And obviously, the big one sitting in the wings is what happens with Comcast and NBC.
Right, and hopefully that'll be resolved soon. Investors certainly speculating about it for a while. Finally, what's going to be driving earnings for the media sector at large? We heard from Comcast, we heard from Viacom, Time Warner. What's going to be the impetus?
Well, the big issue is going to be, where are we in the advertising cycle? I mean, I think it's very important that Viacom had some encouraging news yesterday. Again, we're not out of the woods, but as we move into 2010 and 2011, can advertising come back, and how will these traditional media companies be able to benefit from those kind of benefits? The good news is these are businesses that generate a lot of cash, and the stocks still have a ways to go to back to some of their highs.
Yeah, and carrying a lot of cash is certainly good news in this kind of economic environment. Now, what about advertising in general? Has the market bottomed there? Are we only going to go uphill from here?
There's two issues. The first is traditional advertising is just beginning to turn. And we're obviously, until we see the economy come back, capital spending begin to increase, companies are not going to be putting lots of money into promoting new products. So again, it's going to be much more cyclical. It's probably going to be much more of a 2010, 2011 event.